Greetings, my intrepid audience, for you stand before the King of Curses himself. Tonight, I bear tales from the deepest abyss of darkness, where a man's fate is entwined within a nightmarish novel that foretells his doom. So find your seat, surrender to the shadows, and prepare to be ensnared by this chilling tale. My life, in stark contrast to the average person my age, could be described as the epitome of dullness and mundanity. At the ripe age of 27, I found myself in a peculiar state of contentment, basking in the comforts of a well-paying job that funded my cozy two-bedroom haven. But don't be mistaken, my evenings were far from ordinary. They unfolded into a vivid tapestry of literary exploration spanning the vast realms of fantasy, the annals of history, and the intricacies of military strategy. You see, I am an unapologetic bibliophile, having amassed a treasure trove of books over my almost 3 decades on this planet, gifted to me by the benevolent hands of family, friends, and coworkers. However, it is with great trepidation that I recount the tales of a strange enigmatic tome that arrived in my possession just last week. Regret now lingers as I recount the events that followed its unsettling pages. As I wearily pulled into my driveway, the remnants of a grueling workday still haunting my thoughts, my eyes were drawn to an intriguing sight. Nestled against my front door, a brown package stood sentinel. With a sense of intrigue piqued, I stepped out of my car and ventured towards the object. Gently, I lifted it from its resting place, and my fingers danced across its surface. It bore the semblance of a book, yet it was enshrouded in brown paper akin to the very wrapping butchers employ for raw meat. Twine ensnared it in a mesmerizing crosshatch, obscuring its contents from casual view. My eyes scoured the package in search of a return address, but it yielded no such information. Still, I harbored no small wonderment as to how this mysterious tome had found its way to me, devoid of any discernible recipient. Perhaps it was a relic of my peripatetic friends, those wanderers unburdened by the anchor of permanent roots. I tucked the curious package under my arm, my heart tingling with curiosity, and proceeded to unlock my front door. As I crossed the threshold and sealed the door behind me, an air of anticipation hung in the stillness of my home.
I'm home.
Addressing my vacant abode with a whisper, I gingerly placed the wrapped tome on a weathered surface. Shedding my coat, I allowed it to find its place on the waiting coat rack, an obedient sentinel to my comings and goings. With a flourish, I kicked off my shoes, making the transition from the outside world to the inner sanctum of my dwelling. As if beckoned by destiny itself, I turned my attention to the unassuming door leading to my cherished retreat, the humble library tucked away in the second chamber of my house. The air seemed to shift as I stepped inside, the shelves of bound knowledge standing sentry, silent yet brimming with stories. My fingers fumbled with the constraints that cloaked the enigma within. Loosening my tie, I committed to unveiling the secrets held captive within those layers of brown paper and twine. With a flourish, I unbound the book, revealing a leather-clad relic that bore the scars of time's relentless passage. The cover, a muted shade of green, cradled a bouquet of once vibrant red flowers, now faded by the years. Yet perplexingly, the book divulged no title or author, shrouding its true identity in a cloak of anonymity.
If I remember correctly, this is one of the many symbols of death.
My words lingered in the air, a soft murmur as my hands traced the contours of the logo, an unspoken connection between me and the emblem.
A bouquet of red poppies.
Undeterred, my narrative persisted, a tale unfolding in the quietude of my library, until an abrupt shiver raced down my spine, a silent omen of the enigma that lay before me. With an almost reverent care, I set the book aside upon the coffee table, beside the beckoning embrace of my plush reclining chair. Emerging from the sanctuary of my library, I ascended the staircase towards the sanctum of my bedroom, where I exchanged the trappings of the world for garments that whispered comfort and ease. It was an age-old tradition, a sacred rite of passage before delving into the mystical world of literature. The anticipation of literary adventure tugged at my senses as I descended the stairs once more, each step a beckoning call to the brewing ritual that accompanied every reading endeavor. My path led me to the heart of my home, the kitchen, where I deftly retrieved my trusty kettle. Its metallic form, polished by years of service, glistened in the lamplight as I filled it with water from a crystal-clear pitcher. As the kettle's rumbling promise of steaming respite began, I took a moment to survey the magnificent assortment of jars, each housing a distinct blend of tea leaves, within my venerable cabinet. This was the moment of choice, a flavor to match the essence of the tale that awaited me.
What flavor should I choose tonight?
My utterances ground to an abrupt halt, rudely interrupted by an eerie symphony that played in the background. The air itself seemed to tremble as faint whispers of pages turning mingled with the eerie cadence of a distant scratching, as though an unseen hand etched secrets into the very fabric of existence. With this swift, almost involuntary motion, I spun on my heel, my gaze locking onto the ajar door of the library, a portal to the unfolding mystery. A shiver traversed my spine like a spectral visitor, and with measured caution, I embarked on a clandestine journey. Stealthily, I moved closer to the library, the sounds escalating, a cacophony of hidden intentions that beckoned me like a siren song. As I hovered just beyond the threshold, the once subtle scratches erupted into a maddening frenzy. My heart raced in anticipation, and with newfound courage, I catapulted myself into the room, only to find it unchanged, an untouched tableau of silence, as if time itself had stood still. The mysterious presence that had dared to dance at the edge of my perception had slipped through the veils of reality, leaving me with nothing but lingering questions and a lingering sense of unease.
I could have sworn I heard someone writing here.
Thoughts swirled like tempestuous winds in the confines of my racing mind as I prowled the room, a sentinel of curiosity and unease. My gaze darted to each window as if searching for answers in the shadowy recesses of the outside world, and then scanned the sentinel like bookshelves, their volumes standing as stoic witnesses to the enigma unfolding. Yet, like a moth to an irresistible flame, my attention was inexorably drawn back to the peculiar book, still reclined in the same forlorn posture I had abandoned it, weathered and bruised, a silent enigma in the dimly lit room. Shaking my head, I attempted to dispel the disquieting tendrils of doubt that threatened to consume my rationality, but the tendrils remained, stubborn and persistent, weaving a web of uncertainty that clung to the corners of my thoughts.
I'm either getting old, or I'm just plain losing it.
I retraced my steps to the kitchen, my fingers deftly seeking out a familiar bag of meticulously chopped herbs proudly bearing the label, green tea. As if in orchestrated harmony, the kettle's shrill cry pierced the air, heralding the culmination of its liquid transformation. With a graceful pour, the boiling water cascaded into my awaiting cup, meeting the tea bag's embrace with a steaming passion. The verdant infusion danced within the depths of my mug, whispering secrets in every swirl. With practiced precision, I lifted the now sodden tea bag, its purpose fulfilled, and consigned it to the waiting embrace of the trash bin. A generous drizzle of honey, like liquid gold, lent its sweet solace to the brew, an alchemical touch to elevate the experience. With the cup cradled in my hand, I embarked on a journey back to my library, each step guided by the anticipation of both literary and liquid warmth. With a cautious breath, I coaxed the fragrant tendrils of steam from my tea, an aromatic prelude to the journey ahead. My mug found its resting place, and I surrendered to the plush caress of my recliner, sinking into its embrace with an expectant sigh. With a deliberate motion, I reached out, my fingers extending like the beckoning of fate, and unfurled the book's pages. Yet, as its secrets unfurled before me, a peculiar miasma reminiscent of decaying meat wafted up, an unsettling olfactory intrusion. Brushing aside the notion, I dismissed the book's apparent neglect as the source of the strange odor. Undaunted, I riffled through the pages, searching in vain for the customary table of contents, my fingertips tracing the uncharted terrain of this tome. When I finally settled on what appeared to be the opening of the author's narrative, I found no guiding chapter markings, an omission that should have set my curiosity alight. Yet, like an intrepid explorer diving into uncharted waters, I chose to shrug off these initial oddities and allowed the story before me to weave its beguiling spell, surrendering to the enigma with a sense of both trepidation and anticipation.
To normal people, I am a peculiar individual, as voyeurism is generally frowned upon in human society. Human behavior does not always align with the morals of the status quo. They kill, steal, they consume without remorse for others.
This sounds more like a journal than a novel.
With those words lingering in the air like an unspoken incantation, I embarked upon the literary journey that lay ahead, the words on the page weaving a web of intrigue around me as I delved deeper into the heart of the story.
Fortunately for me, I am not one of those poor creatures. I am something older, something more primal yet divine, or as the humans would put it, more unholy. A funny thing about labels like that is that they abide by the flimsy moral codes of humans. To others of my kind, I am an anomaly, still as my sole purpose seems to be that of a predator or an executioner. There are no rhymes or reason for whom my target is, good people or bad, people who keep to themselves and cause no harms, people who remorselessly kill and slaughter and give into their greed, their lust, their envy.
It sounds like the rambling of a demon, reminiscent of the screw-taped letters. I wonder if this will be hysterical in the same way of the piece of that literature.
I chuckled to myself.
To the untrained eye, I am invisible, unseen, and able to enter in all places, as nothing can impede my wanderings. I watch the humans searching for my next target, like of a tourist through an orchard. I can smell the rightness of these creatures. I I can tell they are ready to be whisked away from this plane into a world of pure terror and pain. They never see it coming, but I begin to become bored, anxious with the hunting and killing. In that regard, I begin to understand humans in the laying crumbs of bread to their demise, watching them slowly feel the creeping of my darkness until their body and souls elude nothing but unhinged fear, sort of how their torture of animals makes their meat sweeter. In this, I begun to concoct new tactics. Pick a target, make them feel their deepest nightmares come to reality. In their most terrified moments, I become visible to them, and it all serenades their most sweetest morsels. A being such as myself could never achieve otherwise.
Midst the embrace of the book's world, the room's illumination faltered, a capricious dance of shadows beckoning my gaze away from the gripping narrative. Like a vigilant sentinel, I scrutinized the room, my senses tingling as the lights hesitated before me, relenting to their steady radiance once more. A sigh of vexation escaped my lips, a lament for the precious seconds stolen from the unfolding tale. My hand, like a lifeline, sought solace in the familiar contours of my tea, and I took a fortifying sip, the warm infusion of balm for my frayed nerves, coaxing my racing thoughts back to the realm of tranquility. With renewed determination and a sense of purpose, I returned my gaze to the book, ready to plunge once more into its depths, determined not to let any further distractions deter me from the mysteries it held.
But that is enough musing about my purpose. My latest target was a man of no remarkable distinction. At first, I roamed the streets of this sickening city that was no more or less another empty monument to human avarice. As I hovered over a homeless man strung out on man-made poisons as he slumped on a stop bus bench, I noticed a man stopped at the red light. He stared in our direction. As I was sure he couldn't see me, his eyes met mine. He stared for a long duration, and as our eyes were locked, I couldn't help but feel a growing hunger for his anguish.
My contemplation hung in the air, a fragile wisp of thought, as I traversed the labyrinthian corridors of my memory. It was but a day ago when I had encountered the disheveled specter of a homeless man, lost in a haze of despair upon a weathered bench. Yet, within the foggy recesses of recollection, a disconcerting detail emerged, like a shadowy figure lurking at the edges of perception. There, in the recesses of my thoughts, I harbored a suspicion that a hazy presence had loomed just behind the homeless man, an apparition I couldn't quite reconcile with the events of that fateful day. The enigma of this memory niggled at the edges of my consciousness, an unresolved puzzle waiting to be deciphered.
I followed this man home and began preparations for the hunt to come. I watched his routines and his habits, sniffing out signs of weakness, places I could slip my claws and inflict his fears, rupturing into the crack of his psyche until he came undone at the scene and was begging for it all to end. The man did nothing but sip tea and read books until he climbed the stairs to his bedchambers and fell into a dreamless sleep. As he slumbered, unbeknownst to my existence, the gears in my head turned, and I began laying the breadcrumbs.
A mirthful chuckle escaped my lips, a response to the uncanny similarity between the victim in the story and myself. But I mused, I adventured through countless tomes, encountered myriad characters mirroring aspects of my own existence, and dismissed such synchronicities as mere coincidences. My gaze shifted to the array of books that had delved into the realms of religion and demons, exploring the very notion that had fueled nightmares for generations. These volumes, in their own way, had cast shadows of doubt upon the existence of such heinous entities. Phantasmal beings, horned and cloaked in red, purported harbingers of apocalypse. It was almost comical, I thought, that humanity clung to tales of these otherworldly terrors, despite the utter lack of concrete evidence to support their existence. In truth, history bore witness to the fearsome nature of humanity itself, a species capable of atrocities that surpassed even the most grotesque imaginings of demons. As my gaze wandered to the grandfather clock, its hands resolute at 10:30, I found myself closing the book, standing with a sense of finality, as if I had glimpsed the depths of the tale and was now ready to confront the world beyond its pages.
Time for bed. As much as this book intrigues me, I still have work tomorrow.
I declared softly, setting my now empty mug aside with a sense of finality. The library's light surrendered to the cloak of darkness as I shut the door, leaving the enigmatic tome to its own mysteries. The journey of words and wonders was temporarily halted. I ventured to the kitchen, where my mug found its place in the sink, a silent sentinel awaiting its cleaning ritual. The ascent to the master bedroom beckoned, a nightly pilgrimage towards slumber's embrace. My evening rituals unfolded like clockwork as I nestled into the comforting cocoon of my bed. But as the realm of dreams beckoned, I found myself ensnared in a restless reverie, a dream or a twisted semblance of reality. Awakened by frantic scribbling, a disconcerting hiss echoing down the hallway, I slipped out of bed, the sensation of dread nipping at my heels. My fingers fumbled for the light switch, yet the darkness seemed unyielding, wrapping itself around me like a shroud. Dim illumination beckoned from the stairwell, guiding my tentative steps through the labyrinthine passage of my home. At the top of the staircase, an unsettling sight greeted me, the library door ajar, its lights flickering like dying embers and an eerie cacophony of pages being forcibly turned over, accompanied by the frenzied scribblings of an unseen hand. The line between dream and reality blurred, and I stood at the precipice of an inexplicable enigma, my heart pounding in the cold grip of fear. With every ounce of caution, I descended the staircase, each step a tentative whisper in the stillness of the night. As I reached the bottom, I transformed into a phantom of my own, moving silently, like a wraith, to the precipice of the library door. Gingerly, I leaned forward, my breath held in anticipation as I peered into the room, an interloper in my own domain. What I witnessed sent a chilling jolt through my veins, an amalgamation of confusion and fear that left me trembling. In the heart of the room, an amorphous shadow defied the boundaries of reality, its form shapeless yet defined by an unearthly purpose. With unnatural speed, it etched arcane symbols into the pages of the little green book, a blinding flurry of motion that defied comprehension. A gasp escaped my lips involuntarily and unbidden as I watched in both awe and terror, for this creature filled the pages before me with a malevolent fervor. Its gaze, like two orbs of molten yellow, pierced through the darkness, fixing on the doorway. In a desperate bid to remain unseen, I retreated, pressing my hands over my quivering mouth, the warmth of my breath trapped beneath my trembling fingers. Suddenly, the house plunged into a void of impenetrable darkness, an inky shroud that enveloped everything. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the oppressive presence of the creature remained, its hot, moist breath slithering along my ear with an eerie hiss, a sinister echo that bore the semblance of twisted laughter. My heart raced, imprisoned by the fear of the unknown, as I stood on the precipice of a nightmare made manifest. My slumber was shattered by the abrupt sensation of weight landing heavily upon my chest, a jolt that catapulted me from the comforting embrace of dreams to the harsh reality of consciousness. Blinking away the remnants of sleep, I cast my gaze upon the nightstand's clock, its luminous digits proclaiming the hour. 7 a.m., a time far removed from the depths of midnight hours. As I stirred, a strange object slid from my chest, a gentle bounce on the sheets before gravity claimed it, sending it tumbling to the floor with an ominous thud. My curiosity mingled with unease, a foreboding presence creeping into the edges of my awareness. With hesitant movements, I inched closer to the bedside, my eyes widening in terror as the truth revealed itself before me. There, lying innocently on the floor, was the little green book, a harbinger of the inexplicable, its presence a haunting reminder of the night's uncanny events.
I swear I left that down in the library last night. Now what is it doing here?
In a surge of determination, I threw the bedside covers aside, revealing a shiver of bare skin as I spun around, my feet dangling off the edge of the bed. Leaning forward, I reached down and claimed the little green book, its presence both enigmatic and unsettling. With trembling fingers, I turned it over in my hand, scrutinizing its surface, as if searching for answers etched into the very fabric of its cover. The weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air as I sighed, a reluctant acceptance of the enigma that had insinuated itself into my life. In a daring act, I cracked open the book, unleashing the unknown upon the world once more, my heart pounding with a mix of trepidation and an insatiable curiosity that refused to be stifled.
The first night, I thought I would demonstrate my power by infiltrating the sleeping man's dream. He was braver than I thought as he approached me without so much as a weapon, but nonetheless, I could smell the first hint of fear, of his fear, starting to grow. Faint though, it may be he would show me what he truly fears as my influence grows in strength.
My gaze wandered around the room, the lingering remnants of the nightmare still etched into the contours of my thoughts, its vivid tapestry playing out with an unsettling intensity. I shook my head vigorously, a fervent attempt to disperse the spectral tendrils of that dark dream. It was, I reasoned, nothing more than a creation of my subconscious, a mind inundated with the horrors of the countless tomes it had devoured. Resolute, I closed the books once more and gingerly placed it on the nightstand, embarking on the mundane rituals of preparing for another day of work. Descending the stairs and stepping out into the world, I found myself haunted by the events that had unfolded since the book's mysterious arrival. Behind the wheel, I drove through the city's familiar streets, trying to wrestle the enigma into the realm of reason. But my attempts at rationalization served only to exacerbate my unease, leaving me mentally drained and locked in a relentless cycle of uncertainty.
I'll just play some morning radio to clear my head.
My fingers reached out for the radio knob, a desperate attempt to drown the unsettling thoughts that swirled within my mind. I cranked up the volume in hopes of finding solace in the cheerful banter of a radio host, a soothing antidote to the growing unease. Instead, what met my ears was a dissonant symphony of static, its harshness far too intense for the minor adjustment I had made to the knob. Leaning closer to the radio's mouthpiece, I strained to discern the faint murmurs beneath the oppressive noise, a struggle to grasp the elusive truth hidden within the chaos. As the sound intensified, a sinister familiarity clawed at the edges of my consciousness, a hissing laughter, akin to the haunting specter from my nightmare. It grew into a deafening crescendo, a cacophony that seared through my eardrums, an agony that rippled through my entire body. In the midst of this auditory onslaught, a disheveled figure emerged from the shadows, a homeless man stumbling onto the street. With a heart-pounding jolt, I slammed on the brakes, the screech of rubber against asphalt echoing the fragile line between salvation and catastrophe, mere inches from a collision that could have rewritten the course of destiny.
Watch where you're going, you damn idiot.
In the aftermath of our near collision, the disheveled man, eyes aflame with anger, snapped at me, his weathered hand smacking the hood of my car in a visceral display of frustration. A shiver coursed down my spine as I leaned my head out the window, my heart still racing from the close call.
Hey man, I'm so sorry.
With a dismissive wave of his hands, the enigmatic man vanished into the bustling sidewalk, his presence fleeting yet palpable. I hastily wiped away the beads of sweat that had formed on my brow, a testament to the heart-pounding encounter that had just unfolded. The radio static had relinquished its oppressive grip, replaced once more by the familiar morning talk show, its cheerful banter a stark contrast to the disquieting moments that had transpired. A cacophonous honk from behind jolted me back to the present, and I offered an apologetic hand through the window before navigating the urban labyrinth once more, the mysteries of the little green book and the eerie laughter lingering in the recesses of my thoughts. Weary from the demands of a long day's work and the restless night that had preceded it, I navigated the darkening streets, the weight of exhaustion heavy on my shoulders. I rubbed my tired eyes, the world outside becoming a blurry tableau as I surrendered to a cavernous yawn, the sheer weariness a relentless adversary. As the city's traffic lights dictated our halting pace, I struggled to marshal my thoughts, a battle against the encroaching specter of sleep that loomed ever closer. In that vulnerable moment, a jarring thump echoed beside me, a sensation that jolted me fully awake. My eyes darted to the passenger seat, and there, against all reason, lay the little green book, its cover adorned with those haunting red poppy flowers. It must have been a trick of the exhausted mind, I thought, but I could swear that the crimson blossoms appeared more vibrant than ever before, their allure an unsettling reminder that the mysteries within its pages were far from extinguished.
What the hell?
My frantic gaze scanned the car's interior, a desperate quest for any sign of another presence. But at the initial glance, there was nothing. No other vehicle, no pedestrian, just an empty, shadowy expanse. As I tentatively reached for the book, I glimpsed at an elusive movement in my peripheral vision. My heart surged with a mixture of dread and disbelief as I turned my attention to the rearview mirror, only to find myself locked in a chilling gaze with those malevolent, yellow eyes from my nightmare. They burned with an eerie, joyous intensity, a sinister presence perched in the backseat, defying all logic and reason. My pulse quickened, a frantic tattoo in my chest, the cacophonous rhythm echoing in my ears as I spun around to confront the malevolent specter that had taunted me. Yet, in the heart-stopping moment, the seat was vacant, as if the terror itself had been a mere figment of my imagination. Without hesitation, I seized the little green book and cast it out the open window, its departure a desperate bid to sever the connection to the enigma it held. My trembling fingers clamped onto the steering wheel as I slammed my foot down on the gas pedal, the engine roaring to life, and I sped away, leaving behind the haunting specter and the mysteries that had threatened to consume me whole. I careened into the driveway, my car barely shifting into park before I flung myself out the vehicle, a desperate sprint to reach the sanctuary of my front door. Panic clawed at my senses as I fumbled with my keys, their metallic jangle a frantic symphony of urgency. My trembling hands, slippery with fear, finally managed to unlock the door, and I stumbled over the threshold, slamming it shut behind me. Inside, the remnants of adrenaline coursed through my veins, my heart racing as if pursued by unseen phantoms. The world seemed to spin around me, and I struggled to catch my breath. Leaning heavily against the door, I sought to regain control over my trembling limbs, my chest heaving in a desperate attempt to find solace. Amidst the unsettling stillness that enveloped my home, an oppressive weight hung in the air as if the very atmosphere had turned hostile. Every corner seemed to harbor secrets, and the silence bore an eerie quality that made my skin prickle with unease. As I lifted my hand to wipe the cold sweat from my forehead, my fingers brushed against something unexpected. The book. A shiver of dread coursed through my veins, freezing my blood as I stared at the book in my hand, disbelief and terror entwined in a sinister embrace.
I threw this accursed thing out the window. How is it still here?
In a surge of fear and frustration, I hurled the book to the ground with all the force I could muster, a desperate attempt to rid myself of its haunting presence. It soared through the air like a phantom, crashing into the farthest wall with a resounding thud. To my horror, the book didn't surrender to the laws of gravity or reason. Instead, it defied my feeble attempts to banish it, as if possessed by a malevolent will of its own. Its pages fluttered and danced in the air, flipping through the chapters with an eerie autonomy, a nightmarish manifestation of the horrors that had been steadily encroaching upon my life. I stood there, an overwhelming sense of dread clawed at my mind, the very foundations of my sanity quaking and splintering beneath the relentless pressure of a nightmare that had transcended the boundaries of dreams and reality.
The reader of this deadly book has become all too aware that he is being stalked by a nightmarish being. Now his fate was all but sealed as he spiraled towards the climax of his demise. He would attempt to stop the inevitable, but it would prove to be his detriment.
A demented voice in otherworldly chorus emanated from all directions, its origin an enigma that defied logic and reason. I stood frozen, a mere witness to the surreal horror unfolding around me. It was then that I realized the truth, a revelation that sent a shiver of terror down my spine. The book, that wretched tome, was reading itself aloud to me, its pages coming to life with a malevolence that shattered the boundaries of comprehension.
No, not itself, but the writer. The thing's trying to kill me.
With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I bolted upright, my legs carrying me in a frenzied sprint towards the stairs. Panic and urgency fueled each step, but the frantic rush left me stumbling and falling to my hands and knees as I reached the top landing. In that heart-stopping moment, I had no luxury for hesitation. I clawed my way back to my feet, every second a precious commodity, and scrambled forward, crawling into the sanctuary of my bedroom. The door slammed shut behind me with a reverberating finality, a feeble barricade that I knew, deep down, could offer no true protection from the malevolent force looming on the precipice of my perception.
The reader's fear could be felt throughout the house. It filled every nook and cranny like a gaseous cloud. The time was coming that they would be able to perceive me in my abhorrent glory.
With an ominous snap, the book behind me slammed shut, marking the conclusion of the creature's macabre narration. My heart clenched in dread as I whipped around, the very act of description eluding my trembling tongue, for any attempt at conveying the abomination before me threatened to unravel the last vestiges of my sanity. Those yellow eyes, gleaming with a malevolence that defied reason born to the core of my soul, the creature perched upon my bed, an eldritch entity that held the closed book in its grasp, its very presence a testament to the nightmarish descent that had consumed my world. A tidal wave of terror washed over me, an icy grip that constricted my very soul as the horrifying truth became inescapable. There was no refuge, no sanctuary left to seek. I was hopelessly cornered within the confines of my own bedroom, trapped in a nightmarish tableau where the malevolent entity held all the cards. The creature seemed to revel in my fear, a perverse sustenance drawn from the depths of my dread. Its sinister presence oozed into the room like a noxious fog, saturating every inch with a suffocating and palpable dread, until it felt as though the very air itself had turned against me.
You cannot run from me, Jeffrey. I have been waiting for this moment, this exquisite moment, where your fear reaches its peak.
The entity's voice reverberated through the corridors of my mind, a disorienting echo that fractured my trust in the very fabric of reality. It felt as if the world itself was contorting, bending to the sinister whims of this malevolent force. The boundaries of perception blurred, leaving me adrift in a nightmarish abyss. Yet, I knew I couldn't succumb to this eldritch horror. The need to fight back surged within me, a defiant spark in the face of overwhelming darkness, a resolve to reclaim the shattered remnants of my life. Summoning every last reserve of courage, I cast my gaze around the room, desperate for a lifeline. There, within arm's reach, my eyes locked onto a tennis racket. I seized it with trembling hands, holding it aloft like a makeshift weapon, a symbol of my determination to resist. The creature responded with a low, guttural chuckle that sent shivers down my spine. It began a slow, mocking clap, its malevolence an unrelenting force that threatened to consume me. But I stood my ground, defiant and resolute, ready to face whatever horrors lay ahead.
Well. I'm a bit surprised, Jeffrey. Usually my victims faint or even beg for mercy, but But even in your utter fright, there is still some courage and determination that lives in you. But alas, that won't be enough to save you.
What the fuck are you? Tell me now!
A macabre smile cracked across the grotesque visage, a twisted semblance of a mouth that bore no resemblance to anything human. It was a sinister portal, a gateway to some unspeakable abyss, and its malevolent grin sent shivers down my spine, an unnerving mockery of emotion that defied all reason and understanding.
Have you not been paying attention to my writings? I guess I did withhold the really best parts. Maybe I should tell you of my previous victims. The kings, the soldier, the clarity. Everyone has called me something different. Death, Thanatos, or Shinigami. Personally, I like the name Old Scratch, as it's the most fitting, as I'm just scratching an itch that persists in me eternally.
The creature's gaze wandered about the room as it spoke, as if reminiscing on the dark romances of ages long past. Each word it uttered sent a chill down my spine, and my grip on the tennis racket tightened involuntarily as I grappled with the horrifying truth that was unfolding before me. In that dreadful moment, the revelation struck like a thunderclap. This malevolent entity, this harbinger of torment, had stalked humanity through the annals of history, lurking under various names and guises, an insidious force that reveled in the suffering it inflicted. An aura of ancient malevolence cloaked it, a sinister presence that had witnessed the agony of countless souls. Throughout the ages, an entity of incomprehensible darkness that now stood before me.
Your death? The Grim Reaper?
Those are just some of the names mortals have given me over eons. I exist to collect souls, to revel in their fear, and to savor the essence of their terror as they face their inevitable demise.
With each word that emanated from the creature's twisted maw, it seemed to coalesce, transforming from an ethereal specter into a more substantial and nightmarish form. The room, already shrouded in darkness, descended further into an abyss of despair, the air turning icy, a bitter cold that clung to my very soul, making every breath a laborious effort. My heart, a relentless drumbeat within my chest, threatened to betray my facade of bravery, but I clung to my defiance. I refused to succumb to the all-encompassing fear that threatened to consume me. My resolve, a flickering candle in the suffocating darkness, determined to resist the malevolent force that loomed before me.
Why are you here? What do you want from me?
It was simple. I was drawn to you, Jeffrey. By your fears, by your true darkest nightmares. I feed on the terror that resides within your soul, and I was so eager to see how your story would end. But it would seem you have found a way to resist me, at least for now.
The entity's eyes glinted with an insatiable hunger, their sinister allure casting an eerie glow in the dimness of the room, its shadowy form twisting and writhing like a malevolent specter that defied the laws of nature. Each movement seemed to mock the very essence of reality itself. In the face of this eldritch horror, a desperate resolve coursed through me like a bolt of lightning. I knew that I must find a way to banish it, to thwart its dark intentions and protect myself from becoming just another hapless victim in the long, harrowing list of its conquest. Yet, the daunting question hung heavy in the air. How could I, a mere mortal, hope to overcome a force that had plagued and haunted humanity for untold millennia?
You seem almost omnipotent, so why haven't you killed me yet?
As the words escaped my trembling lips, a spark of realization ignited within the labyrinth of my mind. I locked eyes with the creature, those malevolent orbs seeming to darken with a potent mix of anger and impatience, an unnerving reflection of the growing desperation in our confrontation.
You need my fear. The more I'm afraid, the stronger your influence. You can't hurt me unless I'm completely broken by dread.
Old Scratch issued a guttural growl, a primal utterance that echoed within ancient malevolence, before casually setting the cursed book down beside himself.
You are perceptive, Jeffrey. I'll give you that. Yes, your fear is my substance, and I relish the taste of it. But breaking you is not my only goal. I seek to craft a masterpiece of horror, a story so terrifying it will resonate throughout all of the ages.
The entity's chilling words rippled through my being, a dread-filled symphony that sent shivers cascading down my spine. It harbored a sinister ambition to use me as a vessel, to craft a tale of terror so potent that it would transcend the boundaries of time itself. The weight of its insidious intentions pressed upon me, a suffocating darkness that threatened to paralyze my very soul. In that dire moment, I understood that my sole chance of survival hinged on my ability to defy the all-encompassing fear that sought to consume me. With newfound determination surging within me, I took a bold step forward, the tennis racket clutched firmly in my grasp and locked my gaze onto Old Scratch, a resolute challenge in my eyes that defied the malevolent force before me.
You want a story? Then I'll give you a story you'll never forget. A story of resistance, of a mortal who defied the embodiment of death itself.
Old Scratch, for a fleeting moment, appeared to be caught off guard by the intensity of my defiance. It emitted a hiss of disconcerted frustration, a malevolent creature recoiling as if its shadowy form teetered on the precipice of disillusion, struggling to maintain its hold on the fabric of reality. But I couldn't afford to relent. My survival depended on keeping the abomination perpetually off balance.
Leave this place, Old Scratch. You may have haunted kings and soldiers, but I won't be your pawn. This is my story, and I choose to fight back.
The room itself seemed to quake with an otherworldly fury, a tempestuous maelstrom that threatened to swallow me whole. Yet, I stood resolute, unyielding in my determination to confront the embodiment of fear and seek control over my own destiny. Old Scratch, that malevolent force, began to tremble, its shadowy form faltering and weakening in the face of my unwavering resolve. With each step I took forward, the creature seemed to shrink, its once imposing presence diminishing as I waged an unrelenting battle against the very essence of terror itself.
If fear is your weapon, then courage is mine. And I am not so weak a man that I will succumb to the base emotions such as fear. Now I won't say this again. Leave this place now and never appear before me again.
In a final, desperate surge of defiance, Old Scratch lunged at me with an unholy determination, its monstrous form hurtling through the darkness. Razor-sharp claws extended like the talons of some infernal beast, aiming to rend and tear. As those paw-like hands reached menacingly towards my face, the world seemed to hang in suspense. In a heartbeat, as the brink of terror loomed, the book flung open of its own accord, as if guided by some unseen hand. Old Scratch was seized by an invisible force, frozen in its malevolent trajectory, a nightmarish tableau of horror suspended in time and space.
No human, no mortal has ever beaten me. This isn't how it's supposed to go. I'm supposed to win. I always get what I want.
The very book that had once been a harbinger of dread now convulsed with a violent energy, its pages quivering in a frenzy. An unseen force, potent and relentless, began to draw Old Scratch toward it, as if the malevolent entity was being irresistibly pulled into the very abyss from which it had sprung. In a nightmarish spectacle, Old Scratch contorted and writhed, its form gradually dissipating as it was inexorably sucked into the waiting pages of the book. The room itself seemed to pulse with the raw power of this unearthly struggle, an otherworldly confrontation between the forces of darkness and an indomitable will to survive.
Not this time, old-timer. You lose.
A triumphant smirk graced my lips as I watched Old Scratch, the embodiment of terror, being inexorably drawn into the hungry maw of the book. With a deafening slam, the cursed tome fell to the floor before me, sealing the malevolent entity within its pages. Exhausted and trembling with the aftermath of the ordeal, I could do nothing but collapse to the floor, my chest heaving with ragged breaths. A deep sigh of relief escaped my lips, mingling with the disbelieving laughter that bubbled up from within me. As I lay there, gasping for breath, I grappled with the surreal truth of what had just transpired. Old Scratch, the very embodiment of fear itself, had been vanquished, ensnared within the very book that had once been a source of dread in my life. The room, once saturated with malevolence, had now transformed into a haven of calm and stillness. With cautious curiosity, I picked up the book once more, my fingers no longer trembling with fear. It no longer radiated the eerie, foreboding presence it once did. For the first time, it felt like nothing more than an ordinary object, devoid of the insidious power that had once ensnared me in its sinister web. Realizing the perilous nature of the artifact, I knew that I couldn't afford to keep it in my possession any longer. With a sense of urgency, I reached out to the experts in the occult, individuals who possessed the knowledge and expertise to handle such a sinister tome. I had no certainty about what fate befell the book under their care, but one thing was certain: I was relieved to be free of it, praying that both the cursed tome and Old Scratch himself would no longer pose a threat to anyone. In the days that followed, I endeavored to put the harrowing ordeal behind me, attempting to move forward with my life. But the indelible lessons it had etched into my soul remained, a constant reminder of the darkness I had confronted. I had faced my deepest fears head on and emerged victorious, a testament to the enduring power of courage even in the bleakest of moments, and a beacon of hope for the uncertain future that lay ahead. My life settled back into a semblance of normalcy, yet I remained ever vigilant, acutely aware that the fragile boundaries separating reality from the supernatural could be breached, allowing the nightmares of the past to resurface. But I was no longer the cowering victim I once was. I had metamorphosed into the protagonist of my own narrative, a symbol of unyielding resolve when confronted with unimaginable malevolence. As I cast my gaze back upon those dark days, I understood that I hadn't merely conquered my fears. I had rewritten the ending of a haunting tale. It had been transformed into a story of unwavering triumph and inner strength, a narrative that would echo through the annals of time, reminding all who heard it that even in the face of unspeakable evil, the human spirit could emerge triumphant. Hey everybody. So, just a few words. This was my first attempt at like a creepypasta, no sleep Reddit type scary story. And I've, watched a lot of videos or, I guess listened to a lot of videos from other creators. And, it's something I was always interested in. So this is like my first attempt at it. And, it's not amazing, I just wanted to make something to get started, but I've written some other stuff and so expect some more content like this. And I just want to say shout out to Pirate D God. Go check out his channel. I'll have some links down in the description. He did the voices of Jeffrey and Old Scratch. And I say a lot. So but yeah, that is all. So, my brave companions, we conclude our dark and twisted journey through this cursed realm. I hope you've relished the spine-tingling adventures we've shared today, but remember, the realm of curses is ever expansive, and there are more chilling stories waiting to be told. So subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell to ensure you do not miss the next horrifying installment. Until then, may your nightmares be vivid and your courage unwavering. This is the King of Curses, signing off, bidding you farewell from the depths of the eerie unknown.